Rolling.
Rolling.
Now that you've killed everyone in your game, it's time to put in some work.
Yeah. Well, that whole situation deteriorated much faster than I thought it was going to, and then so I'm playing like Ghost Recon, so like shit, like you'll end up in like situations where it's like, oh man, like I haven't, like if I don't finish this now, like it's 20 minutes of me doing more bullshit that I've already done later on. So I'm like, there's 3 people left that I got to just go shoot. So just give me a second.
Right. Dude, we had this conversation. I don't know if it was last or one of these last episodes. It may have been when we were not recording, but I've been playing Call of Duty again. And I know, and I keep telling myself, just go and play like the missions or whatever, because you won't get as pissed off and it'll be fun. And then I'm like, well, let me, the online, okay, multiplayer, let's do that. And immediately I'm pissed because, like, dude, I'm just not good enough to play against like the 12-year-olds in Germany or whatever the fuck wherever they are. Like, dude, I'm just not good enough. And every time I just get so frustrated. I'm like, this isn't even fun. Like, you know what I mean? I'm never on the leaderboard. I've died way more times than like the 2 kills that I got. I'm like, this is some horse shit. What am I doing?
Well, like, no offense to you, but like, dude, for years, I played Call of Duty for like 8-10 hours a day. Like,
I remember I tried to play with you and your friends, and it was not good for me.
Yeah, like I would play with the same group of dudes. Like, we were actually like world ranked for a while, and this is forever ago.
Nerd alert.
But the fact is, like, dude, like, even me, like, dude, once you lose that muscle memory, like, it's gone like that. Like, there's no, like, I mean, I'm sure if I put like 8-10 hours in every day, like trying to get back to it, I could probably get back to it after like 3 or 4 years, but I still wouldn't hang with like most of them.
Oh, dude, so, and that's true. And I hadn't played it in years, and so I picked it up, and I'm like, yeah, no. But I remember when I can't remember where I lived, but I remember you like sending me an invite. You're like, these are me and my homies, we're playing, and I was like, cool, I'll get on your team. And I remember just being like, oh shit, I'm lost, and I'm gonna make Eric look like a douche because all his boys are like super dope, and I'm like standing in a corner, like fucking jumping. I'm like, damn it.
Dude, we literally, like, we would do shit just to fuck with people. Like, we played so much. Like, it's weird that this deteriorated into a video game conversation.
Yeah,
but, like, we would play in maps where, like, we would, like, there, obviously you spawn on 2 sides or whatever kind of at the beginning. And we always played like hardcore. So it was, like, you kill your own team members. Like, if you shot the wrong person, like, it kind of just upped the skill level and the value of what you're doing. But there was this one map forever ago, and it was like literally like we would put like, of our team, everybody would be like snipers. And we would have one dude that would like try to run down the middle of the fucking field all by himself. And just like, so that the snipers could see where everybody was, and then they just sit there and pick people off. Like, and it was this shit, like, it sucked. Like, if you were the guy who had to run, but like,
yeah, right.
You like fuck up your KDR, but everybody else would just sit there, and people would be like, that was the best part of old school, like, fucking Call of Duty, is like, you could get in team chat or whatever, but the best thing was like when you get back to the lobby and fucking everybody is just furious and like cussing each other out. Like that shit was the best. Like, the best.
I've always wanted to be like into video games, and I got into FIFA real big time for a while, but that's even worse with playing like the young kids in other countries. But I don't have the skill to play like on a team. I don't have enough confidence, and I especially couldn't play. If I could shoot my own player, no one would ever play with me because I can't tell the difference ever in Call of Duty. It's like something's moving, target, shoot. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah.
I enjoy playing because it's whatever, but I've never considered myself a gamer or whatever.
Well, like, so the key to that, like, I guess pro tip, like when you play with the same dudes all the time, like, you know what people are good with, like what they're good at, and you know like how people will move, and the communication's like a big part of it. Like, so when I would play with the same people all the time, like they knew I was really good at like calling out where everyone was. So they would be like, okay, when we get in here, Shep's going to do this, this, and this, and then he's going to tell us, like, okay, do we flank right? Do we move left? So, like, everybody kind of had their role to play, but that only comes with, like, time. Like, you have to be used to the same shit all the time.
Right.
But, like, I mean, literally, like, I played with the same people for, like, 4 or 5 years straight. And like I invited one of the dudes that I was in my group, like, to my wedding. Like, he couldn't come. He was like in fucking Afghanistan doing military shit. But,
wow.
You know,
Call of
like,
Duty, bringing people together.
Yeah. I mean, you know, me and him still talk occasionally. Like, it's weird. Like, he's halfway across the planet, but, we would, like, when he was still in the States, man, like, we would fucking talk all the time.
Wow.
So,
well, damn, I wonder how many listeners we've lost since we're talking about video games for like 30 minutes.
Dude, all the random shit we talk about every day, like,
I know.
It might be a nice change for people to hear, like, we actually build it, you know, like, it's an episode that's not just drenched in bullshit. It's a
hey, they haven't mentioned their kids or the quarantine. Hey, I'm going to stick this one out.
Yeah. So, I don't know, a little change up.
There you go. All right, fair enough.
So.
Oh, shit. Well, yeah, before we started, we were bitching about our work, so I'm glad we got to talk about something else off air.
Yeah, dude. So, I will say that this is a weird night for us to record.
Yeah, it is.
We were going to, I don't want to say it this way. Technically, we had planned to be back in the basement Sunday, but Sunday is Mother's Day, and Mother's Day actually is it's the week before my wife's birthday. So, just an FYI on scheduling, Josh.
Thanks for the heads up. Yeah,
but
yeah.
Like, I know your wife doesn't give a shit about Mother's Day. Like, she's probably like happy, like, thank you for getting me a card or some shit, but she's like, your guys' holidays are fucking stupid.
Well, she does think that there's a lot of holidays, and she's like, I can't keep track. But I mean, truthfully, she's been here long enough that let's put it this way. When you mention, oh, it's Mother's Day, I was like, yeah, I know. And then I was like thinking, I was like, oh, wait, I didn't really think about it. I was like, even though it may not be like something she makes a big deal out of, I'd be an idiot not to do something, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I immediately was like, let's record early. I'm with you, because we're in good standings at the moment with our wives. I don't want to risk fucking that up. Also, we're really nice husbands.
Right, yeah. So basically, like, we pulled out all the stops to, like, figure out how to record early. And it fell today, like, which is in the middle of our work week, and we both apparently had days of getting our asses handed to us. So,
yeah, it was pretty brutal, but hey, whatever. I mean, like, it is. I tell you, it does feel off. Like, I wasn't prepared. I came down here and I'm like, okay, yeah, like we're getting into it. All right. So, but I'm ready. I'm ready now. So, well, technically, you've got it hard because it's your episode. I really don't have to do shit. So,
did you say I got it hard?
Yeah, you always get it hard.
Gross. So, if you're enjoying any of this playful banter and would like it to continue on, you can mention how much you liked it on our social media pages.
That's right. Our Facebook and Instagrams are.
Based on True Events Podcast. It's
Hold on. Is there
like you said.
is there a gnarly lag here?
No, not really. I don't think so.
All right, cool. So yeah, what'd you say? Facebook and Instagram? I couldn't hear your answer. I mean,
Based on True Events Podcast at Instagram and on Facebook.
That's right. On the Twatter.
On the Twatter, we are Podcast Bote, BOTE. If you have no interest in social media, as I am getting very close in my life to being, you can hit us up on our Gmail at based on True Events Podcast at gmail.com. And then you can do the rest of our plugs.
All right. Well, we got our YouTube up and running. I just uploaded Berserkers, or Raining Blood, the Berserkers episode on the YouTube, which is our Zoom video. So if you don't want to just listen, you can actually go to YouTube and watch our ugly asses sit here and talk shit. That is, let's see, Based on True Events Podcast, BOTE. Basically, just go to YouTube and search for Based on True Events Podcast. What else we got going? We got I Wrote for BOTE still. You send us your suggestions, just like you've been doing. We will choose our favorite and send you a free shirt.
Free shirt.
Shep came up with the voting idea, so we've been plugging, or excuse me, we've been posting 4 episodes at a time, asking you all to vote for basically which order you want to hear them, because we are going to do them all, and they're listener suggestions. So that's on our social media pages, all of them, basically. So get out there and vote, because that is important to us. We want to know what the shit you want to hear.
Right. Yeah, it is as much your podcast as it is ours. So we would like to play things. We would like to do topics and episodes that our listener base is interested in hearing, as opposed to just things that make us interested in doing research, or where we get lost in the internet. So
yeah, that's right. Before we go, I just want to thank Mexico and Vietnam, the listeners in Mexico and Vietnam. We hit number 88 on the ranks in Mexico, and number 49 in Vietnam. What?
Yeah. And we've been like ranked in like so many weird, like Belgium, like
Belgium,
like
South Africa,
Morocco, one, places like that. And it's funny, like some of those countries, like we'll hang out for a little bit, like on their ranking, and then like Germany. I think we were in Germany, like, because there was a time where we kind of shit on Germany in like 4 fucking straight episodes or some shit.
Yeah, we did.
And then I like we fell out on Germany like that.
Well, we did bash a lot of Nazis. Hello. Rightfully.
Yeah, but I mean, we start with like Hinterkaifeck episode, and we were shitting on Nazis then. So
that was like episode number 2 or some shit.
Right, but so.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's all the plugs, man. We'll do the Waverly eventually, and you guys just keep voting, keep letting us know what you want to hear. Please do us a solid and share our shit around, man. Let friends who you think might be interested, tell them to give it a whirl.
Give it a go.
Give it a go. So yeah, I think that's it, man. Fucking plug done. Plugged up.
Plug done.
Yeah. So it's your episode, so I'm gonna shut up and let you do your thing. I have no idea what you're doing, though, by the way.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I expect the same level of zero input from you during the episode as I do every episode. So I'm not really depending on that side of things. So this is not a suggested episode. Again, kind of the thought process behind not doing one of the suggestions is kind of the accelerated timetable of the night that we've decided to record, and just to kind of allow other people to get their chance to vote on what's coming down the road. So
yeah, for sure.
it's not really an audible. It's just an episode I thought was cool. So I guess technically it's an audible, but it's an audible by circumstance more than it's an audible because I'm just an asshole for once.
Yeah.
So
right.
So
That's
I'm going to
fresh.
tell I'm going to tell a little story first, and then I'm going to kind of go into the next bit of what the actual episode's about. But they kind of tie together. So this is actually a story, like not this story in particular, but the idea of like where these stories are based is something that I'm usually pretty fucking interested in. So this is an episode that I'm kind of a fanboy of. So that's why we're doing it. That's why I picked it. So
Hey, man. It's your world, bro. We're just living in it. So
okay. So what if I told you a plane took off from New York in 1955 and was not seen again until it landed 37 years later? I know it sounds like a Twilight Zone episode, and actually I'm pretty sure the Twilight Zone has did an episode about this. But here's the story. This is the story of Pan Am Flight 914.
By the way, your pause in the middle of that, you were like, what if I told you a plane left New York? I'd be like, and then you paused. I was like, not impressed, dude.
Happens every day, bro.
So
even in quarantine, man.
Right. So wait, how many years?
37. 37 years later. So plane takes off, New York, and the plane took off in 1955, right? It was flying from New York to Miami, okay? As it's flying, it goes off the radar.
Huh.
They can't figure out what the fuck is going on. So they send out search parties. They're going all up and down the East Coast of the United States, over the water. They're basically following the flight path of where this plane was supposed to have been, and they never find any wreckage. They never find the plane. They never find any bodies. They never find any kind of fucking evidence that anything happened. No foul play. So, but they did release in 1955, around 2 weeks after the plane took off and never showed up anywhere, they released a statement basically saying, the plane went down, everybody's dead, we just didn't find it. So, fast forward to, let's see, it's like 1992 or 93. My math is bad. I don't fucking really give a shit. But so all of a sudden there's this guy, he's an air traffic controller in Caracas, in South America, and he's doing his normal thing. He sees like planes and shit that are registered flight paths coming in and out of the airport, and all of a sudden there is a blip on his screen that he doesn't recognize, doesn't have a call sign. So he kind of like calls the plane and he's like, hey man, who are you? Like what's going on? I don't have you registered on as with a flight plan and coming into our airport. And they're like, well, we don't, they're like, we're supposed to be in Miami, like where are we? And he was like, well, you're in Caracas, I believe that's Brazil. But they're like, well, you're a little off course. So we'll go ahead and we'll get you landed and get you back on the right path. Well, as the plane gets closer and closer to the airport, the air traffic controller notices that the plane doesn't really fit the description of any of the other planes. Like, it doesn't have turbine engines, it's still got propeller engines. And
37 years. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So as the plane is like kind of in rotation, getting ready to land, the air traffic controller starts asking questions, and the pilot says, oh, we left New York on July 2nd, and he goes, July 2nd, like, it's not like, are you sure? And the guy was like, yeah. And he goes, well, what year do you think it is? And he goes, well, it's 1955. And he was like, oh, okay. Like, and so the air traffic controller supposedly didn't want to like freak the guy out, but was like, all right, man, well, we just need to get you on the ground. And he goes, how many people do you have on the plane? The guy's like 57 people. And like, all right. So,
yeah, he must have thought that the dude was just like, okay, get him down, because the dude's like at risk to like kill people because he's losing his shit.
He's fucking crazy. Let's get him on the ground, right? So gets him on the ground. As it gets him on the ground, like the dude in the air traffic controller, like immediately like calls like EMS, police, fire department, like everybody, and he's like, dude, we need you guys on the runway. We got some weird shit going on. Well, he's trying to kind of keep the pilot calm, so to speak, as the emergency crews are like kind of like getting their shit together, getting ready to go to the plane. And the pilot kind of notices that things don't look quite right. And he said, you asked me earlier, like when I thought it was, like, he's like, I don't recognize any of the planes and stuff. And he goes, well, he goes, I know you said that you left in 1955, but it's 1993, man. And apparently this is supposedly freaks the pilot out, who immediately guns the engines, restarts, and takes off, and is seen flying away. And in front of hundreds of eyewitnesses, the plane disappears in midair, never to be seen again.
No shit.
That is the story of Pan Am Flight 914.
Wow, dude. I've never heard of that.
So.
Oh, shit, dude.
I'm going to give you a little time to let that settle in before I go into the next bit. But
yeah, I mean, dude, immediately I'm just like thinking of, okay, what could possibly have happened? But dude, I literally have no theory. Like, I'm like dumb. I'm like, I don't know.
Okay, so
other than aliens, obviously. I mean,
aliens. It's always aliens, man. It's always fucking aliens.
Or some sort of time travel, portal, like that shit's real. Dude, there's no way. I don't know.
Okay, so this is the story.
Is this factual, or is this are you about to pull like a creepypasta flip on me? Like, okay, that fucking Stephen King wrote that short story and whatever.
Well, so here's the deal. So that story appeared in 1993. The air traffic controller by the name of Juan de la Corta is the one who was apparently the air traffic controller who helped the flight 914 to the ground in Caracas. This story actually appeared in newspapers in the same area. Oddly enough, the exact same story with the exact same air traffic controller name in 1985 as well. This story then again found its resurgence in being retold yet again as an eyewitness account with the same characters and the same cast and the same storyline in 1999.
Wow, what? That recent?
Yes. So this is an urban legend. This is a story that has popped up numerous times since the early 80s and throughout the 90s. Some of the details are usually actually pretty similar. While I will say that they use the name of the air traffic controller in Caracas, that name usually stays the same, but they have changed the picture that they've used of this gentleman repeatedly.
That's like the dead giveaway that somebody's fucking around is that they use the same person's name.
Right. So
One of the dead, other than the fact that the airplane disappeared.
so there's you know, there's the idea that it's time travelers, like they went into some weird wormhole and then popped out. Like you get this story a lot of times, like when people are telling the story of like the Bermuda Triangle, right? You get this story a lot with like your ufologists and all that bullshit. I basically just told the story because I think it's a fun story. It's shrouded in bullshit. There's
the first theory was, okay, so they're flying from New York to Miami, so basically everyone took a vote and they were like, nah, fuck Miami, and they just went off grid. But no, there's a lot of bullshit to it, but it's a cool ass story. Why have I never heard it if it's been retold so many times though?
You've probably never heard of it because groups like Snoops.com and basically like everybody who does any of the internet research that we usually kind of reference is always like, this story's bullshit. Like,
right.
Like there's too many holes in it. Like, why did it take so long for emergency crews to get on the ground to intercept the plane? Things like, even if it's a flight from the 1950s, it still takes time to, you know, get the engines warmed. I know they just landed, but it still takes time to prep enough to get the fucking plane back up in the air. No pictures were taken. Like,
well, with that many witnesses, like there's no fact. True.
And the fact that the exact same story, ABC, gets told and they just keep changing the date later. Like, they don't say, like, in 1993 when the story got told again and made it into newspapers again, they didn't say this happened in 1985. They said it happened in 1993. Okay. So that's where, like, this is, like, why you probably haven't heard of it is because it is widely discounted as complete bullshit.
Right.
But I thought it was a cool story. The Twilight Zone did actually do a story about this, like the old black and white Twilight Zone, where they go up in the air and then all of a sudden they're like, it's fucking 20, 30 years in the future, and they decide that they're going to go back and fuck. I think they broke the sound barrier in the Twilight Zone episode, and it like fucks with the timeline, and
a really fast airplane.
Like that's like back when we didn't fucking understand shit. So
we're like, it's plausible.
Whatever. It's a fucking fun story. It's a cool story, but it leads me to a story that does fucking interest me quite a bit. And I'm going to tell the tale of the Flying Dutchman, the legendary ghost ship of yore.
Now, I've heard the Flying Dutchman.
Okay, so I fucking absolutely love, like, ghost towns and ghost ships, and not the ghost part of it, but like I love it when there's like a ship that they fucking find and like everybody's gone and there's like no explanation of where the people went, and it's been gone for like fucking 12 years and it's just been floating around, or there's a whole town that's disappeared and like there's no fucking bodies and there's no explanation of why the town is gone. So
that's why you like Event Horizon so much, and like the Philadelphia experiment was like, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I love those, like, these like large scale like disappearance stories. Like with like one or two people disappear, like I don't give a fuck about that. Like, they fell in a hole, somebody killed them, like none of that shit fucking matters to me. Like, if it's a fucking plane full of people that disappear, like it obviously went down or it was hijacked or something, like that stuff doesn't, I don't give a shit about that. But like ghost towns, like that shit's top notch for me. Like, I love like researching ghost towns. Yeah. And then, but like the Flying Dutchman's always kind of interested me because this is like a story that's gone on for like hundreds of fucking years. Right. And so the first telling of the Flying Dutchman actually came from like a fairly reputable source in the beginning. It was actually Prince George who went on to become a king of England. He was on a ship off the coast of Australia in 1881, July 11th, 1881. If you're gonna dig deep into some facts on this one. And the idea of the Flying Dutchman is that whenever this ghost ship is seen, apparently it is like a forewarning of bad things to come. So in 1881, 13 members of the crew of the Bacante, the HMS Bacante, noticed a large red orb floating out in the ocean. And all of a sudden they saw emerge from the large red orb the Flying Dutchman at full sail. After they tried to identify tried to do the ship signaling shit that they did back in the 1800s, which I imagine like they just flew a different flag and
like flashed a light against the sun.
It's not like they had a fucking radio. So, but
hey, over here.
They ended up the captain of the ship decided he was going to pursue the red orbed Flying Dutchman. They pursued it into deeper water, and when they got there to the area where it had been seen, there was nothing there. No signs of any wreckage, no signs of any ship had ever been there. But as legend would state, the first man who saw the red orb and the Flying Dutchman later that day fell from the top mast and died on the deck of the ship. And everyone made port very quickly in Australia and decided to go their own separate ways and try to find their way back home to their various places.
They're like, fuck that, I'm out.
Yes.
Shit's too weird. Damn, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so
I immediately picture like the red orb being like the sun over the horizon or something, and then the ship showing up. It still doesn't make sense why it disappeared, but I'm trying to reason for, all right. Anyway.
So to further the legend, sailors on both the American and German side of World War II had reported sightings of the Flying Dutchman in both the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean at different times. Similar stories of, seeing the ship at full mast, being unable to locate the ship after giving chase, and no real details as to bad omens or anything along those lines. However, the Germans didn't do too well in the war, and the United States Navy took some pretty heavy hits during World War II with U-boats. So maybe
now sorry to interrupt, but before you go on, I'm sitting here like picturing that fucking orb still. But did I miss you? Did a ship called the Flying Dutchman disappear? Did I miss that entire part of the story?
They just didn't find. Like they said they gave chase, and then when they got to where they had seen it, there was nothing there. They never saw it again.
Right, but I mean, like, before these sightings, was there like a known story of the ship, the Flying Dutchman, okay.
I am getting there.
Okay.
We are getting there.
I literally was afraid that like I zoned out and totally missed the fucking like intro to the story. Okay.
Nah, man. I'm just building the legend for a minute. So in 1939, in Cape Town, South Africa, the townspeople actually, multiple people noted seeing Flying Dutchman again at full sail off the coast, and just seeing it sailing. No one was ever reported to have been seen finding the ship. Another situation, they gave chase, didn't find it, blah, 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 blah.
That's
all right.
4 sightings?
Huh?
That 4?
That's four sightings. I'm not going to go through all the sightings. There's a ton of sightings.
Oh, okay.
There's a shit ton of sightings. Like, Flying Dutchman's like the most, it is legitimately the most famous legendary ghost ship on the high seas. And it's been in everything from SpongeBob SquarePants to it was in your fucking Johnny Depp fucking Pirates of the Caribbean shit. So
that's why I don't know anything about it, because didn't watch that.
Okay. Well, so that's where those are the sightings. Like, it's always an ominous thing. People give chase, they can't find the ship, they see it, they can't find it. Wow. So I always call bullshit a little bit on this until I started doing research, because I was like, well, how the fuck do they know that this is the Flying Dutchman? Like, how do they know that this is the ship? Like,
did it have like the words Flying Dutchman like spray painted on the fucking?
Right. Like, was there some sort of like sail thing that I don't understand that made everyone who has apparently ever touched a ship know exactly what the fuck this thing looks like?
Right.
I don't have an answer for that question, but I do have an answer for the question previous to that you asked. Right. So the Flying Dutchman is actually based on a real ship. The real ship itself was actually captained by a man by the name of Hendrik Vanderdecken, who was known as the Dutchman.
All right.
And in the legend of Captain Hendrik Vanderdecken, in 1641, he set sail from Holland to the East Indies to procure various spices and exotic materials at a time when that wasn't exactly the safest or most intelligent choice of things. But any captain who would go about doing this, if they made it to and from the East Indies, they were rich. Like, they were pretty much made in the shade.
Why wasn't it safe? Because of like piracy?
So, like, if you look at a globe, like, I can't fucking do this for you right now, but like, if you were to look at a globe or an atlas or a map, if you're leaving from Holland, which is north of France, right, you have to sail all the way around the continent, all the way around the Horn of fucking Africa to get to the East Indies, and then you have to fucking go all the way back around, back up to Holland. Like, so it's not a safe fucking trip.
Right, okay.
You're going from cold water to hot water, which generally causes all sorts of weird weather anomalies when you're in different temperate areas. You know, and especially in like the 1600s, like, it's not like they don't have radios. They can't like fucking call for help. So and it's a long fucking trip, man. Scurvy was a real deal back then, man.
Right. No, I get it. The length alone is dangerous. Yeah.
So if you were a captain, you had the balls to fucking pull this off. It was usually a one and done kind of situation. It was like, I'm going to do this and I don't have to fucking ever do shit again.
Right.
So captain puts together a crew in 1641 and he's like, hey, I'm fucking doing this. So they fucking sail through treacherous waters, get all the way to the East Indies. They almost sink like 12 fucking times. They end up spending like something like 2 to 3 months in port in the East Indies just trying to repair the ship.
Damn.
Okay. So they decide to head back with their goods, and as there's with their goods, legend has it there's multiple legends on what actually happened to the ship, but one of the main legends has that as they were sailing around the Horn of Africa, the captain had spotted an island on the way through the first time, and it was his opinion that if he was able to stop at that island and set up like a settlement, they could rest, get fresh water, kind of not have to worry. It was like a good, like, regroup. All right, man. And if he were to settle this island, then he could basically make that part of the trade route and really kind of open up the world to the East Indies, make it a little bit safer, a little easier, not as arduous of a task. Apparently, the crew at some point disagreed with the captain's choice when weather got bad and decided to hold a mutiny on board. To which point the captain then executed all the people in charge of the mutiny, and the men that remained he forced to sail into gale force winds and rough seas and was never seen or heard from again.
Wow.
So that's legend number one.
We told you, motherfucker.
Yeah, like, dude, stop. Like, fucking stop. So legend number two, which I will say is the least likely of the legends, is that when they were setting sail from the East Indies, they took on two passengers, a young man and woman who were engaged to be married. The captain fell in love with the young woman, and at some point, the demise of the young man happened by the captain either pushing him overboard or just flat out killing him. Sometime after that, the woman disappeared. Once the woman disappeared, the seas got rough and things were starting to get worse, and that's actually what was supposed to have started the mutiny on board, which then an ensuing battle on the ship meant that no one was ever seen or heard from again. And then
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that I said, dude, that one's like the least likely one for me.
Although I will say, man, if you're like out to sea like that, it'd be really easy to make somebody disappear. Hey,
yeah,
look at the whale.
He slipped. Right. It was the fucking Kraken.
And you're not going to find him.
So the third option is actually a fairly interesting option, and one that I really hadn't thought about, I guess, until actually just doing research on this. Is they got to the East Indies, new area, new people, and got the crew got sick, and caught some bug, caught the fucking COVID.
The COVID, the Rona.
And no port would accept them. So you've got a crew that's sick, and they've got nowhere that's going to accept them. And slowly the crew members start dying off. And basically the ship is just out sailing the world with a dead crew.
With nobody driving. No.
Nobody driving a boat. Now, those are like the three considered like likely, or not likely, but like those are like the legends of where
the most common, or most, yeah.
Like those are the stories that like sailors tell, or what the fuck ever. The one that actually does like it kind of rings the most true is like they probably did get sick in India, like malaria or some shit, and like I can see other ports being like, yeah, dude, fuck you. You're not, like we're not letting you in. You are all sick as fuck.
Right.
We currently do that right now in our country. So I'm just saying, like I can see that happening.
That's true. It's literally happening.
Yeah, it's literally happening right now.
Not
so,
fun, yeah.
So the reason that I tell this story, because the idea of the Flying Dutchman's been around for hundreds of years, like yada yada yada. And by the way, the Flying Dutchman is not actually the name of the boat. The Flying Dutchman is a catch-all for any boat that is seen that looks like it has basically like a big fucking pirate ship floating around out in the fucking water, and people chase it and they can't fucking catch it, right?
Right.
Now, I tell this story for a fucking reason. There was a ship that went missing, and I think it was, this is a legit story. There's a ship that went missing, and I think it was actually in the Bermuda Triangle-ish area.
Okay.
And the ship was found like 17 years later, still sailing, like still just out in the water, like currents taking it, and there was nobody on board.
Whoa.
Like nobody. Like no record.
The chance of it not like hitting something, or I mean,
I'm sure it hit tons of shit.
Well,
okay, it hit something big enough to take it down. Like from what I recall, it was actually a pretty big ship. I'll have to look. Like I didn't prepare the story on that ship, which I probably should have. But for time's sake, I didn't think that I would have the ability to tell that story.
Wait, hold on. You prepare for these fucking episodes? Like I didn't know that's what we were doing.
I wrote notes.
Oh shit!
I fucking wrote notes.
It's
so
a rare evening. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, dude, I will tell you this. Like sidebar in the middle of my thing. So since we've had to do all these fucking episodes on Zoom, I can't fucking use my phone for research anymore. Right. So I got to write shit down.
Yeah.
So I can't like on the fly like come up with the fucking answers like I used to. Right. So I have to do like that much preparation ahead of time. But there are the reason that I tell this story, and the reason that I tell the Flying Dutchman story, and the reason I prefaced it with the Flight 914, the Pan Am Flight 914 story, is there are actually fucking stories of shit where it's like, we found this boat, or we found this that's been missing for like 20 years.
Right.
We thought it had sunk in a storm, or we thought it was just gone, but it's just literally been floating around, hanging out, sailing the seas.
Nobody's seen it. That's crazy.
Well, but if you really like think about the ocean, like the traffic on the ocean is, I mean, it's probably, there's a shit ton of boats on the ocean, but they kind of stay in the same fucking lanes. Like they stay close for a reason, man. Like you kind of stay all together. So if some shit goes wrong, it's not a fucking 3-month journey for somebody to come get your ass.
Yeah. But also at the same time, like, you know, growing up in Florida, like I've been out like deep in the ocean on boats. And like when you see another boat from far as hell away, like you can't tell exactly, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not gonna go find out what the boat is. No, it's just another boat really far away. So you're like, whatever, we're doing our own thing. So people could have seen it and never known. You know what I'm saying? That's the missing fucking ship.
Right.
Now, if I was out there and I saw a pirate ship, I'd probably want to go check it out. But if it's along the same, you know,
right. Time frame, so time for science. Okay, so here you go, brother. Science's most likely answers for things like the Flying Dutchman are basically a mirage-based optical illusion.
Right.
So refracted light, depending on the density of the air, based on humidity, can give the appearance of ships on the horizon. You
The
take
same way
people
you
who
can see water in the desert, or you see the Loch Ness monster on the ocean or in the lake.
exactly. So the refraction of light through like moisture, especially in hot water, or hot water going to cooler air, or cooler water into hot air, will change and refract light at a different degree and can offer up optical illusions very similar to mirages in the desert. One very interesting fact is if you see something and you're lost in the desert and it looks like a mirage of water, or if it looks like water, like you're going to an oasis, you need to be going a different direction, because that is light density in the air, and the air is actually refracting the light thinner, which means there's a less likely chance that there's actually any water in the direction that you're walking.
Wow.
Just for S's and G's, just in case you wanted to know.
Next time I'm in the fucking desert.
But I did find that I found that little tidbit very interesting.
No, it is actually, because I had never heard that, and that whole, like, you see the mirage of water is like in a shit ton of films and stories, and so but I've never heard anybody say go the opposite direction. But that makes total sense. It's science.
It's science. And then lastly, the mirage that I found the most interesting. Well, there's two more technically, but this is the one I kind of enjoy quite a bit. So in cold temperatures, especially where snowfall is very prevalent, the air density is increased. So it casts a larger, deeper shadow. And many scientists have, well, I wouldn't say many, I'd say like the 5 guys who actually wasted enough time to try to figure this out have considered that the reason that there are so many sightings in the Himalayas of Yeti and or Bigfoot of the snow is because it's a cast shadow, and the density of the air molecules is so great that shadow casts a longer, huger picture, which can make a normal sized man of between 5'6" and 6 foot tall look like they're anywhere from 10 feet to 12 feet tall.
Oh shit. You were so happy to hear about that one, right? You were like, I fucking knew it.
Fucking dermal ridges, man. So
that's fascinating, actually.
So the legitimate, like the end all be all of ghost ships, I would say 99% of the time, is it's your mind playing tricks on you based on refracted light across long distances and moisture in the air. Not to burst anyone's bubble, I think there are definitely ships out there that have lost their crew and have yet to run aground, or just they have run aground and then a big wave comes up and it pushes them back out to sea. Like we don't really have an idea of that, but there have been cases of ships without crews that are sailing around this big blue marble and being found many years later without explanation.
They couldn't they couldn't sail that far, otherwise they'd fall off the edge. You know what I mean? Because the Earth's
I mean, Earth is flat as fuck, man.
So okay, I get the scientific explanation. Like that makes complete sense to me. But yeah, there's still, like, I love the fact
I personally don't care if the scientific explanation makes sense to you. that's the explanation, but thanks for giving it your seal of approval.
That's right. Now it's okay. It's official. But no, you dickhead. But I like better the fact that you said that it's factual that there have been ships that are just out there floating, which there's like a super eerie, cool, like, image, or that just seems so like mysterious to me. Like, that's cool. That it's so cool that the scientific explanation can't take that away from me, because I enjoyed the cool aspect of this story better than the scientific explanation.
Well, I'm glad. I enjoy the science side of things, man.
I know you do.
So, yeah, like and to be 100% transparent, in full disclosure here, I mean, the ghost ships that, like, you can read stories today about shit where it's like, oh, ghost ship found after 17 years. I mean, honestly, I would fact check that shit too.
Yeah.
But, I've heard stories of, Somalian pirates who've, gone in and hijacked ships and killed the crew and taken off the ship, the stuff that they want, and have no use for the ship. It's not like they're going to bring that big ass piece of evidence back to their fucking,
right,
house.
Right.
So they just let that shit sail out in the water,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense that shit can be floating around out there.
Yeah.
To me, and I just, like, to be honest, like, ghost towns is like really, like, that's like really one of more up my alley. But I'd always heard the story of the Flying Dutchman, and, like, I wanted to know where that story came from. And you and I had kind of talked about maybe doing a fucking plague episode, or maybe doing this, or maybe doing that.
This is so much better. So much better.
I'm glad that I did the Flying Dutchman story, but I did find it very interesting that there was a section in the story that basically said that, if they were sick, a lot of ports wouldn't take them in. That makes a lot more sense to me than random bullshit like, oh, the crew got pissed. Yeah, like, don't give me the Romeo and Juliet bullshit. Like,
right.
Don't tell me he was like, all of a sudden, like, he's got his fucking nest egg sitting in the ship and he's like, oh, we're gonna go make an island. Like, no, man, get the fuck out of my face with that. Like, it makes sense that, like, they got fucking malaria and everybody was like, y'all look like shit. You ain't like, we're not letting you in.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, bro.
Straight up. What movie is that? Can't sit here. The Forrest Gump or some shit. But no, dude, there's no way that. Well, the sickness theory is by far the most likely. I agree with you on that for sure. The other two are like, well, the one in the middle with the husband and wife or the lovers, like, nah, that immediately I was like, bull. The first one I'm like, well, a mutiny, maybe it's it's a little far-fetched, but like the illness, that's like likely.
Yeah, like that ship to me, or losing a ship to illness, is actually very common. So like, that shit happened a lot back in the day, like
back then, yeah.
Whether it was like scurvy or, like scurvy, like they actually have had situations where they think that like mutiny was apparently the thing of the day. Like, people get pissed off and then they're like, fuck you, we're killing everybody. Mutiny. But there's the idea that mutiny was really kind of just happenstance, as like people are going crazy because of lack of vitamin C. And I kind of this is always like a factoid that I always found interesting, is that for long journeys, most of the time people realize that you couldn't well, you obviously can't drink salt water without dying, but you can't really like barrel fresh water either, because it goes stagnant and then your people get sick and they fucking die from that as well. So actually the term whiskey is the Gaelic word for water of life, and the reason it is called that is because sailors realized that a fermented corn mash, which got you drunk, would actually not stagnate on their long journeys and had enough hydration value in it that they could survive these long journeys on boats. And it made them feel all right.
And the trip is more tolerable. Well, for those that are, I guess, partaking.
Yes. Well, I'm sure everybody, I mean, at some points everybody's got to drink something. So
yeah, right.
They're not. Everybody's not in there like pulling a Bear Grylls and drinking their own piss and fucking like, you know.
Yeah,
but I always found it interesting that the term whiskey actually came from the Gaelic word for water of life, and that was because that is how they survived long journeys on boats back in the day.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool. That's real cool. Man, imagine one person who's like, no, I'm going to stick to my piss because I'm a mean drunk.
Yeah. Like, no, bro, we're going to deal with mean drunk.
Yeah, that's Sorry. It. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I never knew that. So I will admit this. When you first said, oh, man, I love ghost ships and shit, I'm like, yeah. And then you go, not because of the ghost shit. I was like, like immediately I was like, oh fuck. But still, this was so I had heard of the Flying Dutchman, but I had no idea of why I had heard of it or where even. Like that seems like it's something that it's one of those phrases that you hear but you never know where the hell it came from or what it's, you know, referencing or whatever. So this was way better than a plague episode, like by far.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little plague story and a little bit of the plague in there.
There you go. For all of those suggesting the plague, we on and Shep was right. I think we've had enough. I think people have had enough right now with pandemics and shit. So if for those of you that requested a plague episode, you got a little consider it done. We'll check it off the list for now.
Yeah, for now. I'm not saying I won't do it.
Right.
Or I won't make Josh do it. But just for right now, like, guys, I've been in my house over 2 months. Like let me get a little space.
Yeah, time out.
We start talking about the Spanish flu and the fucking Black Death and everything else. Like,
well, back to the ghost ships real fast. Just because you didn't talk about the ghost part of it, I'm sorry. If there's a bunch of people that died on a ship and it's floating around at sea, that motherfucker's haunted. That motherfucker's haunted. Period. You can't say that it's not. There's no way.
I can definitely say that it's not. Like,
no, there's no way. There's no way. The likelihood of it being haunted is way greater than not. If there's like an entire dead crew on it and it's just floating around, like not a place you want to just jump on and be like, eh.
Dude, this makes no sense to me. Like, all right, if we're getting into the ghost conversation, this makes no sense to me. Like, if you're dead and you're a ghost, like, why the fuck are you staying on the ship? Like, what? You don't have your energy. Like, why are you going to do other shit? Like, I'm just going to hang out on the ship, man. Feel like the ship's a good spot for me. Like,
oh, shit.
It makes zero sense.
You must have hated the movie Ghost Ship.
I mean, it was bloody.
I was going to say the whole wire like scene was amazing. Like,
that is like literally the only scene worth watching.
I know. Basically, you're right. I agree. The movie is horrible.
But no, like, I mean, like ghost towns, like shit like that, like where people just like disappear. Like,
yeah.
like when a whole bunch of people disappear and there's like no explanation, like that shit, like that's kind of like where that the episode of like the Russian hikers started. Like
Yeah.
a whole bunch of people, nobody's got a fucking answer. Well, that one had a weird turn. So
Aliens and Bigfoot.
yeah, like, you know, they had an answer and just nobody was really talking about it, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I would love for you to do it. I am not familiar with a ghost town off the top of my head, so I would love for you to do. I'll throw in a suggestion right now and a request at some point. Do a ghost town episode, because I'm not. I mean,
all right, man.
Yeah, I'm
like,
not familiar with that, and that shit's cool as hell to me. So I agree with you.
Yeah, like I mean, I would say like 9 times out of 10, like especially like ghost towns like from the Wild West and shit like that, like that's probably chicken pox, man. Let's be 100% honest. That was fucking smallpox, chicken pox, a pox probably killed off the population, and then everybody just left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then fucking coyotes just came in and ate all the fucking bodies. Like, I'm not saying that it's gonna be, you know, I definitely like the ghost town fucking option though, man. Like, I love when there's whole, like, I think it, like, this is really bad reasoning for this, like me liking this, is I like a movie that's really bad that makes this story interesting for me. So
yeah,
like, it's that Ben Affleck movie where like the whole fucking town disappears, and then like Phantoms or something, I think it was called.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, dude, it's like apparently like the point of the story was that there was like this like creature that lived underground, and it would fucking come up to feed every 100 years.
They always make fun of it in Jay and Silent Bob. He's like, Phantoms like a motherfucker or whatever.
Yeah, man. Like I know it's a bad movie, but like it's intriguing to me. Like, kind of like the Cave Bat story, like shit like that, where it's like, oh, we just haven't seen that shit yet. Right. Like I you know, whatever.
Oh, shit. Well, no, dude, yeah, I loved this episode, and I would love to hear a ghost town, because I like the unknown, but I'm also the true believer in the one that's why I made the comment about the scientific stuff. I'm just enjoying the ride of the spooky ship and the unknown, and maybe it is a portal, and then you're like, scientifically, your fucking dreams are about to be crushed, and I'm like, God damn it. But that's what you do, and that's why this is what we are.
By the way, the ship that I mentioned before, it was a shorter time period than I said. It wasn't 17 years. There was a ship that reappeared 9 years after it was lost. It was an Indonesian ship, and it was found with no crew in 2018. Just floating around, just hanging out in the water.
2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago, man.
Whoa.
And that's and that story, if you really want to go research it, was published in India Today. So, you know.
Wow, that's freaking cool.
So there are still,
especially if it's that recent, like that's cool. Like, I mean, I love, you know, historical events and everything, but when it's super recent, it's like, whoa, like, I don't know. It to me, it's more, I don't know.
I legitimately did like zero research on that story. I just wanted to tell the Flying Dutchman story. I wanted to tell my Twilight Zone story a little bit, because that's where I started. I was like, oh, fucking 37-year fucking airplane. Like, what the fuck? Where are we going with this? And then like I started doing research on that, and I was like, like not that I ever believed that 37 years a plane could just be like flying around.
Right.
Like hanging out. But like I literally did go into that research thinking like someone had hijacked the plane and like put it down somewhere, like killed like everybody, like whatever. And then somebody had like was like flying the plane being like, oh look, we found it. Like,
wow. That's cool.
But it's all bullshit.
I know. But still, it's a cool ass story, and you had me hooked at first. I was like, okay, but then I was like, as you started going, I was like, hold on, 3 stars. I was like, okay, it's bullshit.
It's
So,
getting creepypasta. It's getting real creepypasta in here.
Creepypasta. Yeah, that ship was found off of the coast of Myanmar, I guess is what it's called. I'm gonna look into that. That sounds cool as hell. Myanmar?
Miramar?
Myanmar? Yeah.
Yeah. So
good ass episode. I like that.
Tonight's episode, Ghost Ship. The Flying Dutchman.
It was dope. Yeah, that was real cool. Better than the plague. If you did the plague, that's why I wore my Nah shirt. I was like, just in case. Like, nah. Shout out to Big Low, by the way. What? All right, man. Well, shit, that was awesome. Hopefully, we did this early, so maybe next time we're in the basement, maybe not. We'll see, I guess.
Well, we got Mother's Day, and then I got my wife's birthday. So
we'll probably a few more episodes, folks. that's all right.
The quarantine continues, children.
By the way, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers listening to our kid-friendly podcast.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, just because they got kids don't mean they can't listen to this shit.
Yeah, it's actually, we're at 47% of our listeners are female. Thank you, ladies. It's because the videos started getting posted. That's all it was. As soon as we put our videos up there, the female listenership skyrocketed.
Yeah, maybe it was the hard stance on the Japanese slit mouth episode that we did that upped our female following.
That's right. We voted our backing of feminism. Yeah, that's right.
I don't think that this milkshake is bringing anyone to the yard.
Oh, shit. You're probably right.
So
probably right, but hey, it would have been nice.
Well, from Baron Von Pink Sock to all of our listeners.
Oh, Google that shit, folks. All right, man. Good shit, dude. You out?
All right, bro.
All right, man. Later.